There is but one ant that can rival the might of the fire ant. It's right here in Australia. Growing a colony thousands strong in a matter of years, this species is a ruler of the undergrowth. Faster growing than Mellophorus, active above all others. This is the story of how I found the most perfect queen ant and raised it as a colony. It began with my mini Mellophorus. Although many of the colonies now had advanced brood, with some already at workers, they were nowhere near as active as I had imagined a colony to be. My most active colony was my Iridomyrmex, which were quickly growing in size. The infertile queen from previously had been removed, but the colony was still thriving. Their counterpart colony had long since been replaced, their brood fed to another specific colony. These were the last survivors. But I had a trip coming up. One that could change my whole perspective of my ant-keeping journey. To find the ultimate queen ant. One I could nurture and grow. One active above all else. One I could finally be proud of. But of course, it wasn't as simple as that. My trip to South Australia. This was truly where I discovered their nature. Mellophorus, faster than I had ever seen before, darting across the floor. And their mages. Once I had seen them as just bigger workers, but they could not be compared. It was amazing how such chunky ants could run so fast. This was what I had imagined when I had wanted to raise Mellophorus. The speed at which they ran was incredible, and I finally remembered why I had been inspired in the first place. Mellophorus of different shapes and colors too, species I hadn't imagined before, now dotted the landscape. And I thought, maybe it wasn't the ants. Maybe my own impatience had only created a false hope that it was all about the species of the colony, when really, every colony needed time. The speed at which the Mellophorus ran was intoxicating, yes, but it didn't change the fact that they needed to grow just like every other ant. And I wondered, what if I had been completely wrong about keeping meat ants? After all, were they really anything more than killing machines? Tearing through the landscape and eating everything in their path? But then, it happened. Somehow, some way, I had found a queen. A random car park, a dented gas stop, and one giant meat ant nest. Trails of meat ants flowed across the ground. I was almost afraid they would attack me for stealing one of their royalty. I couldn't really believe it. Was the journey over so soon? Had I already achieved my goal? But the queen was gravely injured, and the worst part was, I wasn't sure if I should be sorry or appreciative. Was raising this queen really what I wanted anymore? After the Melophoros, I wasn't even sure. But little did I know, my perspectives would finally change when we were entering Kangaroo Island. A world of Mamicia. And then I saw it. A meat ant nest, right next to a bull ant nest. Two tyrants of the undergrowth. Wait, what? Neither was fighting? And then I observed the strangest behavior I've ever seen in ants to this day. What were they doing? If I didn't know better, I'd almost say they were playing. Two ants I had thought to be terrifying and destructive, but all along, had I been wrong? But that wouldn't be the end of unlikely meat ant behavior. Camponotus of every color roamed the terrain. And there they were again. But I'd soon realize something unlikely. Here, they weren't the rulers. These two colonies were in close proximity, but the amphibian was stronger. In fact, the meat ant foraging trails took them directly over the camponotus nest. A constant war of attrition, with the two colonies fighting over food and nest space. And although the meat ant nests seemed vast, the camponotus had far more control over these areas. It was interesting how the other ants paid no heed to the war that was occurring, going about their daily lives as usual. The meat ants, though powerful, were a native force. All the other ants had adapted, lived alongside them for thousands of years. And after all I had seen, it was no surprise that something soon dawned on me. The meat ants were not the unstoppable, bloodthirsty force I had once imagined. They worked, they lived, they lost, and finally, I understood why I wanted to keep them. Not for their growth, for their speed, not for their colony, but for their nature. And soon I'd get an opportunity I couldn't refuse. A beautiful colony of meat ants, all offered to me in a single trade. All I had to give up was one thing, but of course it wasn't as simple as that. The trade was for my Melophoros. The deal should have been easy. I was getting so much more value in all aspects. But after all I had gone through, was this really what I wanted? The colonies I had wanted for so long, gone, just like that. But the meat ants. I understood now why I wanted to keep them. I really did. And so I accepted. Finally, I had a colony like I had imagined. Fast growing and exciting, yes, but also of a species I truly wanted to keep. But what happened to my Melophoros? Well, I wasn't asked to give all my Melophoros. I still kept one colony. And the thing is, this colony was as exciting as I had imagined them to be. A major at just 6 workers, constantly active storing honey. This is what I had imagined when I brought home those tiny single queens, willing them to grow into a colony. finally I had everything I wanted. After all I had experienced, all I had learned, was finally truly content. But of course, there is always more to learn.